About 2,000 years ago, in the sunny Mediterranean regions of Greece, there grew a charming, delicate flower. This humble blossom captured the hearts of all those who encountered it. Its beauty and fragrance were so impressive that the Greek botanist Theophrastus named it Dios Anthos, flower of God. Later, the translation would be written as Dianthus. After becoming acquainted with its intoxicating fragrance, it was given the species name of Caryophyllus, from the Latin clove-scented. This was the predecessor of the modern-day carnation. Over the years, Dianthus caryophyllus would be cultivated and hybridized by avid gardeners to enhance its size and color. While being embraced by the peoples of Spain and England, it was the Carthusian monks of France who grew the heavenly flower in their gardens, using it in their daily lives and improving upon its qualities. In 1852, the first carnations were imported to America from France by the Henderson Greenhouse Company in Long Island, New York. In an unusual turn of events, several of these potted plants found their way into the hands of Dr. Levi Lamborn in Alliance, Ohio. Since 1904, Alliance has been officially known as the home of the scarlet carnation. This distinction is owed primarily to the efforts of Dr. Levi Lamborn, one of its original founders. This town has a rich history, and Lamborn played an important role in its early success. In 1849, Lamborn started his medical practice in Alliance, and shortly thereafter founded the town's first newspaper. He helped bring industry to the area and used his innate business skills to acquire real estate for the city's expansion. Civic-mindedness and eloquent communication skills also led the doctor to serve in politics and earned him a seat as a clerk of courts in the Ohio legislature. After ending his medical practice in 1866, Lamborn began his love affair with the Dianthus caryophyllus carnation. He would embark on a horticultural journey of growing, perfecting, and distributing the scarlet carnation, the flower that would enable Alliance to be crowned the Carnation City.
Welcome back to another special episode of Revamping History. I'm your host, Roy, with my brother Jesse, and today we're standing in downtown Alliance, Ohio, also known as the Carnation City. And it's known as the Carnation City because of Levi Lamborn. But before we go any further, let's go back and see how all this got started.
Levi Leslie Lamborn, and that is his full name, but you will sometimes see his name written with the names reversed. So he's also been called Leslie Levi Lamborn, which can be a little confusing, but he seemed to use both names at different points, but most generally it's Levi Lamborn. He was born in, I believe, 1827 in Chester County, Pennsylvania, which is very near Philadelphia. Some sources will say that he was born in 1829, some will say even 1820, and if you look at the census records, his age is all over the board, but the earliest records that I can find in the Quaker records indicate he was born October 10th of 1827. So he was born to a Quaker family in Chester County, Pennsylvania. His parents were Townsend and Anne Lamborn. Levi was the youngest of 11 children born in that family. So there he is in Chester County. Well, about the age of 9 or so, maybe 1836, 1837, he and several of his siblings and his mother moved to Salem, Ohio. And if you know anything about Salem, Ohio, you know there were a lot of Quakers there in the early 1800s.
Salem, Ohio was started in 1806 by Zadok Street and John Strawn. Both were dedicated, lifelong Quakers. This area was heavily involved in the abolitionist movement. For more info, check out Revamping History's episode of the Underground Railroad in Salem, Ohio. After being educated as a doctor, Levi Lamborn would then move to the village of Mount Union, Ohio.
Yes, he had started it in the village of Mount Union, and then when he got married, they built the house, and then was here in the newly building up village of Alliance on the west side of town. He bought 6 or 8 acres that's at the northwest corner of Union and Main. So right now there's a marathon station there.
There are several stories about Alliance and the name, and sometimes people say, yes, it was the merging of the villages. We had the earlier villages were Williamsport and Freedom, which we're at the Mabel Hartzell home right now, and this was part of the old village of Freedom. And then there was the area that was briefly called Liberty, which was right at the east end of Main Street where the trains were. The usual story for Alliance is that it was the alliance of the railroads, not of the villages, but of the railroads. And we had 2 of the major lines. We had the Ohio and the Pennsylvania going east and west through town, and we also had the Cleveland and Pittsburgh line, which was also called Cleveland and Wellsville early on, which went from Cleveland, came down through Ravenna, Limaville, and then through Alliance to get to Pittsburgh. So when those railroads crossed right at the east end of Main Street, that is what most people think of as the origin of the name of the city.
During the 1850s, Levi Lamborn became heavily involved in the local temperance and anti-slavery movements. During this time, Lamborn also started Alliance's first newspaper, the Alliance Ledger. Dr. Lamborn also used his home as a hospital during the American Civil War.
We also know him as having run against William McKinley, right, for Congress. So he was a prominent figure in the community. Then doing real estate development, yes. And then helped bringing Morgan Engineering into town, yes, they knew him for that. And so it's interesting that in certain events that occurred throughout the latter part of the 19th century, they would seek the counsel and advice of somebody like Levi Lamborn.
In 1866, Dr. Lamborn retired from practicing medicine. He then purchased several potted carnation plants for his greenhouse. Lamborn would go on to develop a new variety of carnation, the Lamborn Red. To understand more about Levi Lamborn's involvement with the Scarlet Carnation, we spoke to Lamborn expert and experienced horticulturalist of 40 years, as well as one of the co-founders of the Beech Creek Botanical Gardens, Paul Carmichael, also known as Professor Culpepper.
He started with the first 6 carnations that came to America. And they came through New York, through a big grower there. I'm sure what really drew him in was not just the beauty, but its fragrance. Because so many times he will refer to that, and in the one little quote, he talks about those who will bow at the shrine of beauty and also are in love with, the fragrance of spices. So to him, they were together. That's what made the flower. And these days, the carnation is grown mostly for, its appearance. And like a lot of plants, we've bred them to give us what we want. And sometimes we leave out some of the characteristics they had that were very desirable. Today, when you go to a forest, most of them are pretty, but they lack the fragrance. Most of what I grow, I try to get the ones that are fragrant. They may not be quite as pretty, but we've lost all the varieties that Lamborn worked with. 100 years ago, there were a lot more of the old-fashioned, what they call Malmaison carnations. So this is intensilant is what they call this. I bought the seeds of this, and anytime you grow a carnation from seed, there is some variability. So this has a nice multiple rows of the fringed flowers, and that's one of the things that gave it its nickname. They used to call them clove pinks. You ever heard of pinking shears? Okay, a pinking shears, they have the little jagged edges, and when you cut something, it leaves the jagged. And so they called them clove pinks because of the jagged edge. And clove came from the scent, because it's sort of a clove scent. And the name Dianthus caryophyllus, which is the main genus species for all of the European double carnations, they borrowed the name from the species name of cloves. So cloves grow on a tree, and it's just the little buds that come off the tree, and they pick them before they bloom, and that's what carries that intense flavor and essential oil. So that had a name, Caryophyllus. That was its species name. Well, they took that and gave it to the Dianthus Caryophyllus. Now they don't call cloves by that name, but Caryophyllus still is the species of the double European carnation. So too bad we can't put fragrance across the video. I don't know if you can get a little close up. You can see here's the pistils and the stamens, and on the end of that stamen is the pollen, and that's what you have to work with if you're trying to breed a carnation, is to take some pollen. If you've got a carnation that you really like the characteristics it has, so you're trying to keep those characteristics, breed it into another one. So you take that pollen, you put it into another carnation, put a bag over it so it doesn't get pollinated by anything else, and then you just keep doing that and see what the progeny is. You know, what is the outcome? What's the seeds going to look like from that plant? And that hybridization is, you know, some guesswork, but it's a lot of repetition of trying to make sure you can get that one cross that yields that one great plant, either from its, you know, the look of the form of its flowers, or the in many cases with Lamborn, I'm sure he was trying to help that fragrance be retained in the next generation. So it's something he's spent a lot of time doing. The book probably doesn't tell half the tale, and that's why he was able to develop the Lamborn Red, which eventually he handed out to people and to McKinley, and which he lobbied for after McKinley's death to become the state flower. And then not shortly after that, the Alliance was crowned the Carnation City, because that's where he developed the Carnation Red.
He had a wonderful career. He was so well respected. Did so much for our town. I think he's left a lot of legacies. We see the carnation, and that's a very visible symbol, and that's probably the most visible symbol of when you think of Lamborn today. You think of that carnation, but I look at all of the things that he did to further Alliance as a community, as a city. He was one of our best.
Levi Lamborn died in 1910 from a hemorrhage and stomach cancer. He left behind a wonderful legacy. Lamborn's image can still be found all around Alliance, Ohio today.
We're here again on historic Main Street in Alliance, Ohio, where there's been a huge push to revitalize this historic area. Let's see what's happening on Main Street today.
My husband and I started the ball rolling. There was junk stores and a few bars on the main street, but a lot of empty buildings. So we helped change the perception of downtown, that other businesses would start considering opening their shops here. We've rented spaces to some nice people that do upscale vintage and antique shops. So that's a strong presence here on East Main Street that's joined us since we started. But yes, we'll take some modest credit for getting the ball rolling. It had been tried many times before, according to the Chamber of Commerce President Mark Locke, who said, "You folks will be the one to make this happen." So they wanted it to happen, but the timing wasn't right, and now we'll see where it goes from here. We have our Grumpy Troll Cafe, which is picking up steam, Wisecracks Comedy Escape Room, Mad Dog's Crazy Cat Cafe, a unique take on a cat cafe where we just pay to play with cats in a unique environment. So each thing we do, we want to have the wow effect. We also used art as an economic tool to revitalize. We work closely with Arts and Start, the local arts council, in using artists to create outside murals and sculptures and transform the neighborhood from a blighted, rundown, unpainted. We have the Come Visit Camelot project. It's a giant building. The side of it was transformed to look like the Knights of the Round Table with stonework. So the exterior structure using art and artists in all of our buildings. Jupiter Event Center, you feel like you're in a Tuscan Italian garden with statues. Our Thebes is over the top. That's the last one we'll be launching here. It's currently for rent as an event center, but we hope to make it into a place where you can come and tour the Egyptian artifacts with a life-size camel, a sphinx, a pyramid, and 10-foot gold and black statues. But it documents some of the history of Egypt, and we also have King Tut's tomb recreated there. So quite outstanding and exceptional attractions here in Alliance, Ohio.
It's coming along nicely. What we're hoping to get, and we're working, is to get a couple more restaurants, a couple more entertainment areas. We have a great relationship with the University of Mount Union. The students there, they want more entertainment. They want more places to go. We're looking at it, we're going after it, and what we look at, we tell ourselves, hey, we're open for business, Alliance, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Today, downtown Alliance, Ohio has a number of thrift and variety stores, places to eat, monthly downtown events, and so much more. For more info on potential business opportunities, contact the Alliance Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Alliance also has a self-guided history walking tour. Alliance Ohio is also very proud of the annual Greater Alliance Carnation Festival. To learn more about the Carnation Festival, we spoke with Susan Grove.
This is the 64th year for the festival. This year it's August 1st through August 11th. And then right after that in September, we start for the next year. Many of our events have been long-time events. We bring in new events. We try to have different age level events. And anybody who wants to know about it can go online at www.carnationfestival.com. This year we have the great-great-nephew of Levi Lamborn coming from California. Their great-great-grandfather and Levi were brothers, and they were farmers from Pennsylvania. So now they went out west, and they have, in the Napa Valley, they have a vineyard, and it's called Lamborn Family Vineyard. And so they have a Carnation wine that they did last year. And it's very cool. It's a Lamborn Red. And it tells the whole story of their great-great-uncle on the back, Levi Lamborn, on how he created, you know, the seedling, and how he had the Carnation was just developed here in Alliance, Ohio. They've never been here before. So they're going to stay a week, and we're going to take them to those historical places, showing them where the original greenhouses were, which are now practice field for the University of Mount Union. But we have pictures, and so we're going to do some behind-the-scenes things with them, but then we're also going to have them attend the actual events going on. So an auto show here, there, our days in the park. There's just so many things that they can see and have their time spent here in Alliance be a memorable one. It's their very first one. As the president of the festival, I'm working with the Preservation Society, the Historical Society, and Castle Crusaders, and they're called the Three Families. So they work together, and so they're working with me representing the festival, and we're doing an itinerary of events so that they're taking them on some private tours of things. We're making sure they're doing some things. We're getting together and making sure that we make it memorable for our citizens as well as for them. So it's Michael and Terry Lamborn, and they're the ones that are going to be coming. So then you'll see that'll be out on our website. It's on the 3rd. So we start on the 1st, and we end on the 11th.
For upcoming events happening in downtown Alliance, find Main Street Alliance on Facebook. Contact Main Street Alliance if you would like to be a part of their events. There are always plenty of opportunities in downtown Alliance, Ohio. And of course, no trip to Alliance would be complete until you visited the Glamorgan Castle. Glamorgan Castle was originally built as a private residence for Colonel William Henry Morgan in 1904. It cost $400,000 to build and remained in the Morgan family until 1938. While the United States was deep in the throes of the Great Depression, the widowed Mrs. Morgan sold the castle to the Elks organization for $25,000. They used it as their lodge until 1964. Merrick Lewis purchased Glamorgan Castle for $51,000 to use as a corporate headquarters for Alliance Machine. During this time, there were extensive renovations to the building. Glamorgan Castle was used as administrative offices until a broken water pipe flooded the servants' wing in January of 2023. The administration moved into the high school, opening the building to be used for more tours and events by the Castle Crusaders. The school district built a new high school on a portion of the grounds directly behind the castle. The Glamorgan Castle is located at 200 Glamorgan Street, Alliance, Ohio. Email the Glamorgan Castle at castlecrusaders@glamorgancastle.org or give them a call at 330-238-8787 or visit their website at glamorgancastle.org.
Alright, thanks so much for watching this video so far. Now I'm going to show you some of the items that we picked up during the production of this video. The cat doesn't come with it. Alright, this first item is a book by Levi Lamborn called American Carnation Culture. This is a 4th edition, 1901. And pretty interesting, super awesome. But we also, of course, have the newer version of it you can find online, you can probably buy anywhere. And this is a great copy for actually looking through and leafing through, not having to worry about damaging the older book. We also have another copy of the American Carnation Culture. But this one's by Laura L. Lamborn. A lot of different versions of this out there. Alright, these next items are going to be postcards. We love collecting postcards, so we found a whole bunch of cool ones. And these are all actually ones from Main Street, Alliance, Ohio. Super awesome. It's kind of cool looking at these things and seeing how much different it looks today. Alright, we also have this book that actually I just got as a gift from Sherry Groom, of course, at the Troll Hole Museum. But she gave me this copy of the Images of America, Alliance, Ohio edition. By Craig Barra and Lyle Christ. Alright, we also came across this stack of red and blue. Of course, it's Alliance High School programs, ranging from, 1923 all the way to, I believe, 1925. Alright, we also have a couple of these CDs from Paul Carmichael. Of course, he was in the video earlier. But look this CD up on Spotify, online, all over the place. Awesome. A couple other items here from Paul Carmichael as well. You got the Levi Lamborn Carnation Cologne. Actually, this is a nice spray, just a spray in the room. They sell this at the Troll Hole Museum. Alright, and of course these items you can find at the Troll Hole Museum or contact Paul Carmichael. Alright, we also have this other stack of information about Alliance and Stark County. Pretty interesting. Pretty cool things, even this fan. I think you fold this thing out and it actually makes a fan for fanning yourself out. All kinds of cool stuff here. Alright, so that's some of the items we picked up during the production of this video. All kinds of information we've learned about Alliance, Ohio and Stark County. That was just a small part of the story of Levi Lamborn and the Scarlet Carnation. We encourage you to come to Alliance, Ohio and learn more about this story and this wonderful community. So once again, we want to thank our guests for being a part of this video, and most importantly, thank you for watching. See you next time.